Four Premier League matches then kicking off all at the same time today, but fear not, Mark Ogden and Stevie Nicol keep an eye on all of them as we reflect on what could be a big day of results. Oggy, let's start, shall we, with Manchester City, closing the gap, of course, on Arsenal back to 2 points. 3-0 victory at Selhurst Park, a depleted Crystal Palace side, but still an impressive performance.
Yeah, because obviously I know Palace lost at home to Man United a couple of weeks ago, but they're still pretty strong at Selhurst Park. And this was a game that you'd thought, well, City could slip up because Palace pushing for top four, surprisingly. And it ended up routine, didn't it? A 3-0 win. Really good result. On the back of what happened on Saturday night with Arsenal really struggled to get over the line against Wolves. So, Arsenal aren't really convincing right now, but City getting the results. So they're kind of ominous, aren't they, at the minute? They're kind of getting the points, getting the wins, and all of a sudden it's 2 points. So much for Arsenal having a big lead at Christmas. It could be no lead at Christmas. So City are just doing what they have to do and keeping the pressure on.
How are you feeling if you're Arsenal right now, Stevie?
I think you should be worried. I mean, it was a great performance. There's no question. That's how you do it. Away from home against a side that everybody says is going to give you a fright. Yes, had Pino taken that opportunity that when he was clean through and hit the crossbar, but after that, that's how you do it away from home. You need everybody to be solid. You don't want to give too much away, and then you need some of your so-called stars to sprinkle a little dust, and that's what we got. Haaland with a fantastic header. Phil Foden, probably his fourth in 6 games, something like that. And I thought Sherky looked like a Premier League player today. The first time I think he's really stood out for me. Some great little touches. Nice little run as well for Foden's goal. Yeah, if you're Man City, you're delighted. If you're Arsenal, you're absolutely looking over your shoulder big time.
Fair to say Foden's back, Oggy?
Yeah, I think so. I think he has his kind of bursts, doesn't he? He has dips and bursts, but I think he's definitely back to his best. But he's not a showy player, Phil Foden. He's not a player that will kind of demand the spotlight. And I think he's just gone about his business quite well now. I think he scored a great goal again today. And I think the fact that Foden is back playing well, when he plays well, Haaland seems to play well. They have a kind of relationship which kind of bounce off each other. So, Haaland will get all the headlines as usual. Foden is the guy that is kind of making them tick a little bit. I think maybe he's finally found his feet. They're looking for somebody to step into that role that Kevin De Bruyne vacated, the guy that gets goals from midfield. And Foden can do that. He's done it before. He did it a couple of years ago. Had a bad year last year, but I think Foden, when he's firing and when Haaland's scoring goals as well, I think Stevie's right. I think you'd be really concerned if you're Arsenal because they've got some big games coming up. I think they've got Villa coming up, Liverpool coming up as well. So, yeah, this is a good time for City. I think City are beginning to reel them in.
How much does experience count, Stevie, in this second part of the season?
I absolutely don't think you can discount it whatsoever. Regardless of what situation it is, if you've been in it, it registers. And you can tell the signs when things need to change in terms of whether your tactics or your positioning or how you pick the team, certainly in terms of the manager. I think it's huge. I think more importantly, it's the difference between the two managers that counts more, in my opinion. The fact that Pep's been there, done it, seen it 1,000 times, and everybody will say, well, Arteta was there when they won the Premier League and all these other things, but it's a different ball game when you're in charge and you're making final decisions. And as much as, yes, if you're a player and you've been there before, there's no question that you use that experience. But I think more importantly, the way the manager acts and the decisions he makes and the tone he uses, players can smell when a manager's uncomfortable or nervous or not sure. And so I think as much as anything else, I think the difference between the two managers could be the key, certainly between now and the end of the season.
So City very much in touching distance of Arsenal at the top of the table, as of course are Aston Villa. And it didn't look like that at the start of this game. Of course, West Ham scoring the fastest goal of the Premier League this season. They were in the lead. However, Villa coming from behind to win by 3-2. Morgan Rogers, absolutely brilliant. Once again, Stevie, big statement from Villa this, considering where they were in this tie.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. Having gone behind twice, coming back, and then winning the game, as you said, Morgan Rogers is absolutely frightening right now. I mean, all the talk is, do you play Bellingham or do you play Rogers for England? I mean, it's hard to argue that Rogers wouldn't keep Bellingham out of the team. But in terms of, I don't like to say this, but it's the truth. The caveat is it's West Ham. And West Ham can't keep a clean sheet to save their lives. And although they got off to a fantastic start, I always thought Villa were going to get back into this. And yes, you have to do it. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to do it. And as open as the game was, because West Ham, were a big part of it and tried to go forward. And Jared Bowen in particular, I mean, he looks dangerous every time he gets on the ball or anywhere near the goal. So yeah, it's a great result for Villa, a great performance. They did come back twice from being behind. But again, the caveat is it's West Ham who today were way better than they've been all season. But yet again, just aren't good enough. That's the bottom line.
Is that 10 wins out of 11 now, Oggy? What's changed for Villa?
Yeah, I think somebody said it's the first time in Premier League history they've won 6 on the bounce. So, I mean, I think they've got a great manager. They've got a guy. I mean, Steve was talking about Pep and Arteta. I think Emery's the same kind of as Pep, really. Obviously not the same level, but he's a guy that has been around the block. He knows how to win games, knows how to win trophies. And I think when you look at what he had at Villa in the summer, when he didn't sign Rashford, they didn't sign Asensio, and they brought in people like Jadon Sancho, Victor Lindelof, Harvey Elliott, who's not kicked a ball basically. It hasn't really strengthened the squad, but he's just got a very strong unit. They know what he wants to do, and I think even the fact that Ollie Watkins wasn't scoring a lot of goals recently. They're doing this despite a lot of things. It's weird how they've managed to get where they are despite a lot of things that you think are quite negative aspects. But, there's a 5-point gap now between them in third and Chelsea in fourth. So they're pulling away a little bit. They play Chelsea, I think, in 2 weeks. They play United next Sunday, I think. So, this time in 2 weeks' time, Villa could be, very well set in third place. And, I think Steve is right. They're not going to win the league, but they're certainly in the shake-up to decide it. And, they've got a manager who can certainly negotiate his path down the final straight.
Top 4 then for Villa, Stevie, is something they should be satisfied with or really push for this title, can they?
I don't believe they can. I really don't. I don't think the squad's strong enough to be fighting on all fronts. They're on a fantastic run. Again, it's a bit like the snowball right now for them. The belief's there. And when you step on the field, and regardless of the opposition, you feel as though you can win. That's a great place to be. But I just don't think they can sustain it for the whole season in the Premier League. I don't think they're strong enough. If Morgan Rogers goes down, I'm not quite sure where the goals are coming from. Ollie Watkins has been a bit barren when it's come to putting the ball in the back of the net. But yeah, they're on a great run. Long may it continue as far as they're concerned. I just don't see them being able to sustain it over the course of the whole season.
Meanwhile, elsewhere, a comfortable victory for Nottingham Forest, beating Spurs by 3-0. This pretty much tells you where Spurs are at the moment, isn't it, Oggy?
Yeah, a mate went to the game and he said, "Oh, what do you think is going to happen?" I said, "Well, Spurs are going to lose." I mean, I'm not being funny, but we know that Spurs are going to lose. But and it's the kind of game that everything can fall apart pretty quickly. And the first goal, do we blame Vicario? Do we blame Archie Gray? But whatever, it's a cock-up, it's a mess. And Forest took advantage of that. Spurs just don't look very convincing, certainly away from home. And I think, questions will be asked again of Thomas Frank. I think probably a little bit unfairly because, he's having to change the way this squad plays with the same kind of group of players almost that they had last season under Ange. But it's just typical Tottenham, isn't it? You watch Spurs, you never actually feel that Spurs are going to amount to anything because there's just a kind of an inbuilt, either it's a softness or there's a mentality issue there. But Tottenham always do Tottenham. And Tottenham have done Tottenham again today. And, next week they'll I think, play Liverpool at home. So you'd expect them to lose that one quite heavily as well. It's just Spurs, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, they're just not very good, Stevie, are they?
No, I mean, look, they're so inconsistent. I mean, as much as anything else. It's a real tough one because at times you see them and you think, there's the makings of a team here. But then 5 minutes later, you're thinking, where is all that gone? Where is all that energy, particularly the energy side of it? They almost look as though they're running around thinking about what they're trying to do, as opposed to playing and knowing exactly without even thinking about it what they're supposed to be doing. It's a tough one to put your finger on, and it's becoming hard not to kind of point the finger at the manager, because the majority of these players we know are capable of playing open attacking football because they all played for Ange. And that energy was there going forward. that energy just doesn't seem to be there when they go forward. And as I said, you really do have to start thinking that this has something to do with what the manager's looking for and what the manager's asking them to do.
Speaking of managers, what a great appointment Sean Dyche has been, Mark.
Amazing, really. I mean, the mess that he inherited from Ange Postecoglou, when that was just a disastrous appointment, where you could say that Sean Dyche has probably been as good as he was bad. You know, he's just gone in there and he's just done the basics, hasn't he? He's got Nottingham Forest doing what they did so well last year under Nuno. He's got them defending well. He's got them playing the system that they like, and he just keeps it simple. And you know, Dyche can be criticised for that, just like Sam Allardyce used to be criticised for, just keeping it simple and playing to the basics. But it's successful. Well, it's certainly successful for clubs of Nottingham Forest level, that the fans eventually might decide they want a certain way of playing that's different to what Sean Dyche plays. But if it brings the kind of success that Nuno brought last year, and obviously they're doing well in Europe right now, they're doing well in the Europa League. So if you're a Forest fan, you're delighted because you've had a little experiment with the kind of expansive play under Ange, and it didn't work, you know. So stick what you know best and give Sean Dyche a pat on the back.
Meanwhile, another defeat for Spurs that leaves them level with Newcastle, who lost against Sunderland in the big derby in the northeast. This was not a very good game whatsoever. Stevie, did you watch it? Mark, did any of you watch this?
I saw little bits of it. Yeah, the bits that
was too much.
The one. But then we didn't expect. Did we honestly expect it to be a game of football? You know, in the lead up to it, we spoke on our show about how Sunderland. Certainly, I was talking about how I thought Sunderland's physicality was going to be too much for Newcastle, and when you're doing that, then you know the silky soccer kind of goes out the window. And that's pretty much the bits that I saw did. And Sunderland got the result they wanted. And so for them, they couldn't care less whether it was a lovely game to watch or not.
No, of course.
But for Newcastle, it's just another turgid, uninspiring, horrible away performance.
Absolutely right. Okay, go on.
Yeah, to be fair, I watched it, and I know this might be a bit kind of weird, but I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it because.
No, you didn't.
No, I'll tell you why. Because Sunderland last season were a team that came out of the Championship. Everyone was saying they're going to get relegated. They spent well in the summer, and I was watching certainly the first half. They looked like a team that knows exactly what they're supposed to do. The players know what they're doing, and you look at bigger clubs, wealthy clubs that are still making a mess of things. Players don't know what they're doing, but Sunderland got everything right. It was a very physical game. It was a bit of a throwback, and fair play.
But there are any shots on target, Mark? I don't care about setup and how they look. It doesn't. Of course, it matters. If you watch it again, you want to start throwing. You're
going to start throwing XG and XA at me next, aren't you?
Well, I think shots on target is quite clear.
Well,
it's not a very good game.
Sunderland, Newcastle fans.
To win, scoring goals, and to score goals, you've got to get a shot on goal.
Well, unless you get an own goal, then that's exactly what happened.
Sunderland, Newcastle fans at the start of the day, they wanted to win the game, didn't lose. Right?
At least an attempt would be good.
Newcastle fans, if Newcastle had played this an amazing game and lost 4-3, the fans would still be as miserable as they are now. So,
but we'd be happy as just neutrals enjoying football, surely.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm surprised that Steve is not agreeing with this. There's an art to being solid. There's an art to being organised. It's not all about fast-flowing football and playing like Pep Guardiola's team. You've got to admire the way that Sunderland played, and they got a result.
Oh, dear me. What's going on with Newcastle? Is Eddie Howe under any sort of pressure, Oggy? Because this ain't good.
It's strange because away from home they've been terrible all season, but at home they still got that kind of fortress St James's Park feel to it. But I don't think he's under any pressure yet. I think the fans are certainly on Eddie Howe's side, and I think the owners, they've not really been the kind of the hands-on owners or certainly the ambitious owners that we expected when they came in 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm not quite sure what their demands are. I think they probably know what's good for them right now. Is getting rid of Eddie Howe a good idea? Probably not. Where do you go? You've seen a lot of clubs that have made changes and haven't been successful. So I think he's okay for now. But obviously, if Newcastle continue to struggle, let's not forget they're doing well in the Champions League. They're going to probably qualify for the knockout stages. So I think while they're in that, they're okay. They're not going to win it. But I think if they start to drift and they're looking like mid-table in the Premier League, missing out on Europe, then he may be under pressure. But I think in terms of imminent pressure, I don't think so now.
What's your take on it, Stevie?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is I don't really see a deep enough squad for Newcastle. I think that's as much to do with it as anything. And the expectation. I mean, they've been selling players recently over the last couple of years to what do you call it? PRS, PSR. What do they call it? I mean, so their squad to me isn't big enough. The fact that they're the Champions League. In Europe, sorry, and I just don't think they've got the squad good enough and big enough to deal with it. I think that's the biggest problem. I don't think there's any. I think Eddie Howe's a great coach, but at the end of the day, when you don't have the tools, or certainly enough tools, then there's going to be struggles, and unfortunately, they're in a real rut in terms of away from home. And I can assure you, you scratch your head, and everything seems to go against you at the wrong time, and nothing goes for you. And it becomes a bit of a mental barrier after a while when every time you go away, you feel as though you're asking yourself, is today going to be the day we get something? I mean, that's just a horrible mentality to have going into any game. Never mind a derby against Sunderland. So, yeah, I feel for Eddie Howe. I don't think Eddie Howe should be going anywhere. I think he needs to stay there. I think they need to figure out how they can help him a bit more in terms of bringing in more players, better players, and have a bigger squad. I think if he has that, then there's no excuses. But I think right now, I think it's difficult to point the finger and say this is down to Eddie Howe.
Still to come then, the Premier League, Brentford Leeds, Oggy. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a really big game, though. I mean,
I don't want a preview of it. I don't care. Oggy, then, Oggy hoping there'll be no shots on target, because that's what you really want in these games. And just a reminder, Alaves against Real Madrid later on, live on ESPN Plus. It could be Xabi Alonso's last game in charge. We'll, of course, be looking back at that on ESPN FC, which is live at the full-time whistle later today.